launched the largest overhaul of policy on asylum seekers, drawing inspiration from Denmark's approach, which is one of the toughest in Europe. The Labour government has been hardening its immigration policies, particularly on illegal small boat crossings from France. This comes as the government seeks to stem the surging popularity of the populist Reform UK party, which has driven the immigration agenda and forced Labour to adopt a tougher line. As part of the changes, the statutory duty to provide support to certain asylum seekers, including housing and weekly allowances, will be revoked. The government has stated the measures would apply to asylum seekers who can work but choose not to, and to those who break the law. It said that taxpayer-funded support would be prioritised for those contributing to the economy and local communities. Let's in fact listen in to what British Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood has said about the changes to the asylum policy.
What the new reforms will do is change that generations-old assumption that sanctuary provided to refugees can very quickly lead to permanent settlement and all of the rights that go alongside that. We will be changing that to a more temporary process, and the situation will be assessed every 2.5 years. So if your country becomes safe in that intervening period and you are remaining on this essentially core protection model, you will be returned to your country, because we see countries that have started off in conflict and people have moved in order to escape that conflict becoming safe. So I think that is right. And but the whole of the proposals that I will set out tomorrow will also provide new routes for people to be able to work in this country. And if you are working and contributing, you will be able to earn an earlier settlement in this country. And the totality of that package will promote fairness and contribution.
Joining us now is Keith Vaz. He's a former UK minister and he joins us live from London. Keith, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, immigration remains a key, if not the key issue in the United Kingdom. Right now, we obviously see Nigel Farage's Reform UK party surging in the polls. Do you think Keir Starmer's Labour government is doing enough with these visible optics when it comes to doing action on asylum seekers?
Good morning, Thomas. Well, these are only proposals, and of course, other governments in exactly the same position have made big announcements about immigration. The biggest flagship policy of the last Conservative government was sending people to Rwanda to be processed before they got to the United Kingdom. That took years to get into effect and to implement. I'm afraid what Shabana Mahmood is doing, and I have great respect for her, I've known her for many, many years, over 20 years, is that she is providing, as you have correctly said, Thomas, the optics. Let's show a perception that the Labour government is going to be tough. However, the last time they did this, which is one in, one out, we discovered that the person they were sending back to France ended up coming back into the UK. The problem with the asylum system is not policy, it's the people who implement it. And for 9 years, I was chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee that scrutinised the Home Office. We insisted that they came before us every 3 months with a report on how they were doing. The biggest problem you have with new policy is the organisation that is charged to ensure that something is done about immigration excesses is actually not fit for purpose. This has been the case for the last 20 years. That's why the best way to deal with this issue is to actually split the Home Office in half, so that the policing and law and order programme that they have to monitor and fund is done by a separate minister, and immigration becomes a separate department of government, so that the Secretary of State sitting in the cabinet is able to control what is going on. Because I don't think these proposals will be enough to be as tough as Denmark. Denmark is a completely different country. It doesn't have the kind of diaspora that we have. And of course, if you're looking at reviewing this every 2.5 years, people have families within that period. What if one of these people, and it'll be more than one, decides to start a family in this country? How will they then be sent back to a country that is no longer broken? And who will make the assessment that it's no longer broken? Is Syria, for example, a country where we've accepted a lot of refugees from, is that now not broken still? Is it not the case that there are parts of other countries in the world that still are suffering from these issues? So we have a real problem here. It's good to make this announcement, of course. It's good to send out the mood music, but I don't think it's going to get to the people who are making billions out of sending illegal migrants across the Channel to the United Kingdom. These are the people who will continue to take money from vulnerable people, put them in boats and send them to the UK. So the real question will be, in 6 months, a year's time, has it had any effect? These are big, big questions that remain completely unanswered by this government, because, of course, they've just really started to grapple with this issue. But as you said, this has been done because of the rise of reform. Reform have a much tougher policy, which is don't let people in the first place. As soon as you arrive in Dover, Thomas, and you claim asylum, your case begins, and it could last years and years before the Home Office considers it. So, you know, when I finished being chairman of the committee, there was a backlog of 450,000 cases. 450,000 cases. If you appeal, there is a backlog in the courts. So wherever you go, people are going to be allowed to stay until they exercise their rights. What they have to do, of course, which reform will press them to do, is change the adherence to the European Court of Human Rights. That's going to make the biggest difference. They're not doing that.
And Keith, what do you say about Labour's methodology of attacking the issue of immigration overall? Of course, we've seen some rather Trumpian social media posts even from Keir Starmer when it comes to posting sort of threatening messages on his Instagram about these illegal migrants that are coming over. How do you think that's going down with the British people, given the current trust of Keir Starmer's government?
It's so disappointing that we are seeing senior ministers saying these kinds of things, because are we not supposed to be a country that celebrates diversity? Were we not the first country that had an Indian origin prime minister? I've just completed my book, let's give it a plug, Thomas, which is brought out every 5 years about Black and Asian representation in Parliament. We've got more Black and Asian people in Parliament than we've ever had. Certainly when I was elected, I was the only person of Indian origin. Now we have 60 or 70 in the House of Commons and even more in the House of Lords. So where is this all going to lead, this kind of rhetoric? It reminds me of what Theresa May did, which is she sent round buses around Wembley, which, those of you not familiar with the UK, has a large migrant population, and basically told people to go home. To say, why are you going to settle here? You know, you better go home. And you know, this is the kind of rhetoric that is going to be very divisive in the Labour Party, which has always been a party that has brought these different strands together. What you have to be is you have to be tough on illegal migration. You've got to do the deal with France. The reason why you've got all these boats coming over is because we're not in the EU. As soon as Brexit happened, the French turned a blind eye to the boats leaving France. Now, if we had all these boats going into France, then the French would jolly well soon jump up and start screaming, because they are, of course, a nuclear power. They're one of the most powerful countries in the world. But because they're leaving and it's no longer a French problem, that's why you have this issue. We have to get very close to the French, I'm afraid. We have to be very nice to them, and we have to do the deal, rather like Berlusconi did with Colonel Gaddafi, which stopped the flow of illegal migrants from Libya to Italy. You have to show source countries that you're better off staying in your own country than leaving. If there is a war on, they don't have that choice. They will want to go to the first country. First country for them is Greece. It's not the UK. If you are in Syria and you're facing, problems there, you don't travel all the way over to the UK. And that's what's happened because we left the EU. No one's saying this, Thomas. Brexit has been a disaster for our immigration policy.
Keith, do stay with us as we have further updates from the UK. However, we move over to economic policy next. And Chancellor Rachel Reeves has made a dramatic U-turn on her plans to raise income tax in this